Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. I'm joined by a special guest. Well, everyone's a special guest. I'm joined by Miss Chloe Clark. Now, I'll do a little brief introduction of her, but before I let her introduce herself. But this young, amazing leader is a branding expert. And I know that because she's actually helped me with my brand of Positive Philter. And so I have come to know Chloe, I think over a year and some change, through her as a student at Mason, helping me with my personal brand and also with a special project that she did for school in which she developed a brand strategy for me at Career Services. So before we get into this episode, Chloe, give the listeners a little bit of more background of who you are.
So hi, everyone. Welcome to the Positive Philter podcast. I'm so honored to be here. I'm a huge supporter, so I'm really grateful for the opportunity to actually be on and have Phil host me. A little bit of background on me, so some context to the questions that Phil will be asking today. I'm a recent alumni of George Mason University, a school that I cannot rave enough about. I am a business owner in addition to being a recent graduate. So I started a business in 2018 while I was an undergraduate student as just a side business to help pay for school. That took off. So not only was it something that was just used to help with financial stability, but it became a passion of mine. That business is called the Contented Canine. It is a pet sitting and dog walking business, which was founded in Alexandria, Virginia. I have now really expanded into the Washington, D.C. area, as well as Charlottesville, Virginia, where I'm originally from. In addition to that, I am an award-winning communication ambassador. Thank you to the university for giving the opportunity for that. In addition to that, I specialize in social media, content creation, LinkedIn brand management, personal branding, personal and professional development, not only for myself, but for colleagues and peers, as well as students, and really all things marketing and PR. I really just have a knack for working with students, working with colleagues, working with just peers, really being able to take their vision, their mission, whether that's personal or their organization's mission, and really just turning that into really just some personal branding strategies that can achieve the highest ROI, return on interest, if you will, for them and their brand. So that's a little bit of context about me, and we'll just dive right in and get started.
Wow. I mean, first of all, you stunned it real quick. Mic drop. I might just stop the podcast right now. Award-winning, which I know that's true with the presentation. I remember I saw you did a presentation for the school, for the communication school. So yes, she is award-winning. And that's just, wow, that was crazy. And also, a quick caveat, I didn't know that we both, you had the business, but I used to walk dogs for like 2 weeks with Becky's awesome. Pet Care. And then, obviously I wasn't cut out for the dog walking business.
Right.
Because it was a lot of hard work. I didn't realize it was such hard work to drive all over Northern Virginia and get in people's homes to walk their dogs. So mad shout out to you for making that a sustainable business and really doing that. So we're going to get right into it. You are really a guru in personal branding, right? And what that entails. So for the listeners that have no clue what that means, what does personal branding, particularly like social media personal branding, what does that mean?
Well, according to textbooks, I'm sure there is a right answer to this. But I really just want to be more conversational here because I think it will apply more to some of your viewers, especially students who may not know what personal branding is. I think this is really can be an individualized approach. And what I mean by that is personal branding to me is how you promote yourself and how you want to be perceived by others. It's really a unique combination of your personality, traits, if you will, how you want to tell your story. There's a train going by in the background, so we're just going to be real here. But it's really about telling your story, where you came from, how you grew up, and how you want that to be portrayed in a professional setting. Really, it's encompassing, if you will, how you conduct yourself, your behaviors, whether that's spoken or unspoken word, your attitude, and really just how you want people to see you. And really just to tap into that, just being your true, authentic self, and how really you just want to promote yourself. And really, when I think about personal branding, and I just want to kind of use this metaphor for students to be able to understand, is think of yourself as a brand. Think of yourself as a brand like Nike or Adidas, or Netflix, if you will. The strategies that they're using, whether it's their verbiage, whether it's the colors that they're using, whether it's, their affiliations or their partners, all of that is part of their personal brand. A very simple way to think of this is you are a walking billboard for your own company. So that's just a little bit, we're just scraping the surface of personal branding, but it's really all about you being transparent, being vulnerable, and just telling your story of where you come from, and conveying that in a professional setting.
I love that. Obviously the listeners can't see because it's not a visual podcast, but, I'm beaming ear to ear because, definitely those are some of the things I talk about as I try to promote it with students. But, one of the things that came up to my mind was, as the key word, as you said, authentic, but there's this line being blurred, particularly, me of always struggling is being yourself and branding yourself, but then also this like notion of what is professionalism.
Right.
So how do you, and this is individual, how do you kind of convey this authentic self and personal brand while still remaining a quote unquote professional?
Right. I'll be honest, I think when I first started out on this personal branding journey a few years ago, your mind automatically goes to wanting to be polished, right? Wanting to come off as corporate, if you will, wanting to make yourself seem like this person. I'm this perfect professional, aligning myself with what society deems as professional. But really, you're not going to get as far in life if you're sticking to what society tells you or the box that society wants to put you in. And that's where that authentic self comes in, is stay true to your morals, stay true to your values, and everything will align, everything will fall into place in how you want to really just shape that and portray that on whether it's LinkedIn or whatever professional platform you're using for your personal branding. But one of the things I just want to say is when trying to be your true authentic self in this, stick with what you're comfortable with. Like I said in the very beginning, I was very inexperienced when starting out, in this professional journey, just like everyone else is, right? We all are, working on gaining experience, gaining knowledge, and not everyone knows everything. And so it's up to us individually to teach ourselves and really forego on this journey. But the right companies and the right people will accept you for who you are. And one of the things that goes unnoticed and is not talked about is really that deep dive into culture and work environment in companies. Now, I am currently working at a nonprofit in Washington, D.C., called St. John's Community Services. And one of the things that I have noticed while working in that company is they do what they say. They promote diversity and inclusion. They are sticking with social change, keeping up with trends in industry news. Not every company out there is going to do what they say. And so I just want to really just plug that for students, is to be very aware, heighten your senses when you are promoting yourself, when you're learning about how to promote yourself, because really, when you think about the job hunt, you want to go back to the basics of being authentic and being yourself, because there are going to be companies that will accept you for who you are. And you should never try and be something that you're not. Like I said, there's going to be companies, there's going to be colleagues, there's going to be peers that will accept that true, authentic version, and you will feel more appreciated. You will feel more comfortable when you can just be yourself.
I love that. One of the things, I think you said is you started out your journey, and I'd like to really be curious, like take us back to that. Like you put some time, you study this, you got a communications degree, and you really dived in. So take us to the beginning. Like, when did you start really researching and learning about personal branding, and also this lane in regards to communication?
Right. Let's go back a couple years. So let's begin with when I started at Mason. So I started at Mason in 2017. I had already completed about a year and a half of college at a community college. So
I was like, you're on top of it. I know
right.
that. I know that.
As someone who already had the mindset that I was going to be paying for 4-year university tuition on my own, I went ahead, as I'm always thinking ahead. That's just who I am. I wanted to first go to community college while I was in high school, take advantage of, the dual enrollment, and just get a year done. So that's a year less of paying a 4-year university tuition, as I'm sure some of you can relate. So if we go back to that perspective, I was not a communication major when I applied to Mason. So I just want to lay that out there, because a lot of students feel that they're stuck in one major, that they can't change, or they can't change their concentration. This is a very open space for you to change and be flexible at Mason. So if you're kind of just feeling out marketing or PR or comm, don't be afraid to dive a little deeper and ask those questions if you feel that you want to change. So I was a nursing major when I applied to Mason, and that's how I got into the university. Quickly realized that that's where my passion was. But I didn't know if that's what I wanted my career in. So I am someone that loves learning about, anatomy and physiology, helping people. But I didn't want to limit myself to that career. It's not for everybody. I knew that would be very demanding, long hours. It would not be your typical 9 to 5. I was thinking ahead. Where do I see myself? Professionally and personally, do I want those weekends free? It's going back to thinking about, in my perspective, if I was going to go to Mason, I wanted to start from the beginning and not change, my major, because that's just who I am. I like to start something and stick with it. But I want to give open space to tell students it's not the end of the world if you do want to change. So I actually reached out to a couple of people at Mason, a couple of advisors and different programs. And I have got to tell you that the communication department specifically, it's a little plug here.
Yeah.
Their advisors were so quick and so adamant about the success of prospective students. And so it was something to where I was speaking specifically with Dr. Catherine Wright,
Oh, there you
And
go. Yeah.
Dr. Megan Tucker, I'm sure will have no problem that I'm plugging their name here,
Oh,
but
yeah.
they
They definitely are quick. Yeah.
fantastic. They are fantastic human beings and individuals and professors and leaders and advocates. I mean, I can go on. But they were just so great about meeting me where I was. Where do you see yourself? What do you want to be involved in? Here's the careers that you can get being in the communication department. That's where my mind changed from nursing to communication. And really, it was just about I didn't want to be limited. And the comm department specifically, you have the communication major and you have concentrations just like any other college at the university. This offered me flexibility. This offered me to learn multiple things, go down multiple avenues to really cultivate that bigger perspective. So that's where I began my comm journey, was with the advisors, learning information, going to events once I was accepted, learning about career services, and that really just molded my perspective into comm. The personal branding journey didn't begin my freshman year, of course. To me, it was my sophomore year, but we won't get specific. But it really began when I had finished all of those prerequisites, if you will, those 100 and 200 level classes, your basic Mason core. Once those were out of the way and I had that solid foundation, it really began junior year with those specified classes, with those classes in my concentration. That's where I really began the personal branding journey. And another plug, Suzanne Mims, Professor Mims, she sparked the fuel, the passion, the fire, whatever you want to call that. She ignited that journey for me. And so she teaches a PR and social media class, which is the one that I took, as well as many others. And she teaches a study abroad program. That PR and social media class allowed not only me, but the cohort of students that I was in that class with to kind of start from scratch. What social media platforms am I comfortable with? What social media platforms do I not know? Do I want to learn more about? The way that class is structured really allows you personally to do a deep dive, learning about those social media platforms beyond the facade that they're presented as, reading the books, going over the literature, going over, the analytics, the algorithms, learning kind of the behind the scenes. That's where that personal branding journey began. And specifically, I wanted to pick a platform that I was not comfortable with, that I didn't know anything about, and that was LinkedIn at the time. Now, this was 2018, and so I have learned a lot compact in my personal crash course over the last 3 years. But starting out that journey with LinkedIn, it was learning the platform, like I said. It was using her personal branding strategy tips and tools and tactics throughout that semester. And it was really a semester-long project of, I'm starting here, how far can I go? What goals can I reach using that platform? And so really I was using LinkedIn to promote the comm department, of course, promote her class, but also promoting events on campus. I wanted to see how far my exposure could go. And so really, the beginning of that journey, I was just going on and trying to connect with classmates. And so I was really at 200, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. This is as far as I can go. And really, I started to notice a lot of the professionals that I was connecting with after, that initial peer connection, their connections were 1,000, 2,000. And I was, in my head, how do I get there? Right. And that was beyond, the semester long teaching that Professor Mims, so graciously had offered us. And so I thought, what, can I teach myself this? Right. And so that's where that aspect of going in, going online, reading the articles, connecting with professionals. How did they get there? And so that also is part of your personal branding journey, is asking those questions of how did you get here, or what route did you take? And so, I just wanted to give kind of context to that. Is there's a lot of elements in my Mason journey that have led to this personal branding strategy.
I loved it. I was like, that was a full story, and I was really enthralled. I was like, normally, and I'd be totally transparent. Like when I have guests on the podcast, I interrupt them, but I was like, I wanted to hear that full journey, because that was really, I saw the story you took me on, and that was quite remarkable. And one of the things I pulled out was that you're still helping people.
Right.
Like I wrote on my piece of paper values, and so I was very curious that like your values are still aligned. You went from nursing, but you still had the values of helping others. So with that being said, being value driven, let's say I am a person starting from scratch, and I say, how do I like analyze? Like, how do I not diagnose, but how do I really understand my personal brand? So how would you talk to someone like that? How would you tell them what to do, what to brainstorm for themselves?
Right. It can get extremely complicated, which is why we go back to the basics, right? What do you like to do? Not just in school. What do you like to do outside of school? Who are the people that you hang out with? I was just reading an article centered around psychology this week about the people and family members that you interact with on a daily basis really cultivate your mindset, really cultivate your perspective on life. They may not have all the influence, but they do have some. And so when you think about that, going back to someone who may have no experience with personal branding, it's really just sitting back, and it's offering a reflection to yourself. Thinking about goals, thinking about your career, but also thinking about what are you passionate about personally. And so for me, it's helping people in multiple forms. It's mental health awareness, suicide prevention, diversity and inclusion, right? I am not the minority. I don't look like the minority, but I will be sure to represent the minority. And I've always been that way. Ever since middle school and high school, I was always standing up for, advocating, hanging out with individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, friends that were in, the ESL classes that were trying to learn English, friends that were predominantly Hispanic and couldn't speak English. I was always the one that was drawn to those individuals because they were different from me. And that's something to where that diversity and inclusion aspect stemmed from such, an uneducated me in middle school that didn't really understand what that was at the time, but I was advocating for that. And then really when I got to college, I'll be honest, 98% of that decision to go to Mason was because of diversity and inclusion. I wanted to go to a university where I was not, the class didn't look like me, right? I wanted to be in a classroom with other students that spoke multiple languages, that had different religious backgrounds, that looked different than me, that practiced different than me. That's what I wanted. And so it's really a self-reflection. You have to just sit and take time to really think about, what matters to you. In addition to that, it's thinking about passion lies with how do I provide opportunities to other people that I've also been given or that haven't been given to me, but I can advocate for that. So it's really it's simple, right? Don't overcomplicate it. Just think about what do you like to do? what are you passionate about, and where do you see yourself? And so I took that nursing background and I really just cultivated that in my own way to help those around me.
I love that. So one of the things I was thinking is, you said your personal brands and values and all those different things. How does that directly reflect to the social media world? So for instance, I know my values is positivity, being affirmed as a Black male, being a father, all those things you were saying, I definitely wrote them out and made like a mission statement for myself. So I get that part. So how do you take that though, take all those that you just said, the values and interests and hobbies, and then how do we transform that into the digital space, into our billboard of ourselves? I think you gave some clues, but I don't want to speak for you, but I think you gave some clues of how you take those core values and beliefs and interests. How do you take that and actually display it?
Couple things. First could be as simple as your biography or about section on the certain platforms that you're choosing to use. In addition to that, it can be a reflection of your experience on those platforms, companies that you've worked for, volunteerism. Are there organizations that represent your morals, represent your values, and that you wish to advocate for? Are you volunteering there? Are you, giving time, or are you donating? In addition to that, it's that visual aspect of your brand. It's the content that you're liking, sharing, interacting with. Your network can see that. Your peers can see that, your colleagues, your professors, your, immediate and extended network will be able to see that your morals and values are displayed as such.
I love that. Actually, I don't know, maybe you were in that class. Were you in that class, in Mim's class, where she said, look at Philip's Twitter and then say what you think of him? Were you in that class? Or that was another class? Because I remember that it wasn't really uncomfortable, but it was awkward, because it was wow, I never thought of it like that. I think that's when it clicked for me.
Right.
When someone said, or I think it was also, you said it. I think you said something like, if it wasn't men's class, it was, I'm blanking, the handshake. Professor Wink's class.
Correct.
She was like, you said something like, oh, Philip, yeah, I've been following you on Twitter, and you started listing off stuff. And I was like, wow, I never thought of that. At first, I thought I was just posting to be funny or just be myself. But I didn't realize after that, I actually started to take that seriously, every day. Even when I'm just joking and writing, right when I'm about to post something, I said, is this something I would say? Is this something I would be like? And so, if you look, I don't think I'm overtly negative.
Oh, no.
Or even when I'm talking about adversity, I don't know. I just don't feel like I throw shade. And because I've consciously now, because of that, I've thought of how do I want to portray myself?
Right. And
I do agree with you.
The twofold of that is being intentional and strategic. Mm-hmm. Social media and really the digital world, whether it's something so simple as a text message or an email or a post, can be taken out of context so quickly. And that's why we really use that intentionality and really just take that next step to have conversations with people. What did you mean by that post, right? Can we talk about that further? Or I don't understand the perspective that you've shared. Can you enlighten me in that? What can I learn? Specifically, I think what comes to mind for me is really the racial injustice movement, which is something I'm really passionate about and pay very close attention to. Those that are uneducated or don't understand that perspective are very quick to judge because it does not apply to them. So that's just another example of being in a digital world and being in social media is you will know your connection members, if you will, that are authentic, that are transparent, that are vulnerable because their post and their personality is consistent on the platform. And I think that's something to pay close attention to, is when you are expanding your network, when you are working on your personal brand, connect with people that are like-minded, but also get outside of your comfort zone a little, and reach to see individuals that have other perspectives, and how can you learn in a digital space.
I like that. So I do appreciate, that notion of connecting with people that look different or people that have different perspectives. But I would also say maybe there's, not to contradict you, because that's not what I'm saying, but like there's also like people that I probably would not want to connect with because their views that are different than mine, in my opinion,
Right.
were quite polarizing, or might even be, like racial injustice, and then someone that's like racial support superiority, right? Like we have
Right.
to, there
And
is some, and I do agree with you. Like it's almost like we have to still protect ourselves in that space, and only let people, I would say only let people in that are or not going to harm us. I guess I don't know
right.
if I'm wording it correctly, but you get what I'm saying with that.
Right. And that's where it's so important to cultivate those relationships and create that safe space. You do not necessarily, and I wouldn't advise to connect with people that are contradicting your morals and your values, if you will, but you can kind of follow along to some of those people to learn and to continue to understand that there are so many divides, so many barriers, because there are so many people that are uneducated in these topics or concepts. And that's where, it's a self-reflection of, I'm going to continue on my journey to advocate for this group. I'm going to continue to shed light on these issues, because not everyone understands, not everyone can fully see that perspective. So, I create that comfortable space. Create a safe space, if you will, that's not going to damage or harm, your energy as a person, but also as a professional.
Yeah, because I mean, and I would say you actually did a really good job about it, because I remember one time in regards to LinkedIn where you were saying like you were connecting with people, and you were like, you said you were being strategic, or like
right,
who you were connecting with. But I remember you said, well, then there were some people that connected with me or tried to, and I was like, nope, they're not coming in my bubble. And I was like, wow, I even gave you kudos. I was like, wow, that's amazing that you were so insightful at a young age to realize your boundaries in regards to that. So maybe I want to speak on is like, how do you protect your personal brand? Because, I think even in personal branding, there's a level of protect yourself, protect your value. So how would you advise a young person to protect their brand as well?
Right. I mean, that's such a loaded question, but it's so important because, a lot of students coming from that inexperienced perspective, which I had with platforms and, with the communication, world, is there's that anxiousness and that eagerness to build my network, build it as fast as I can, connect with as many people as possible. But you're going to get to a space that's not going to be comfortable. You're going to get to a space that's not protected because you weren't intentional or strategic about it. And that was something that naively, that was my perspective in the very beginning, because I didn't know any better, right? I was learning, I was teaching myself, but quickly realizing that intentionality and that strategic aspect of, really focusing on who's in my network, who has access to the information that I'm sharing, and do I have access to what they're sharing? I think, certain instances had to happen for me to open my eyes and be reminded that LinkedIn is just like any other social media platform, in the sense that there are going to be people that are using the platform for the right reasons. But on the contrary, there's going to be people that use it for the wrong reasons, or they don't come off as professional as they should. So it's really just being aware to a certain extent of who do I want to see the content that I'm posting. Who do I want to grow with? Who do I want to uplift me? Who do I want to, share, kudos with? Am I creating a network that's positive, which is something, you're so passionate about it, as well as I. Am I creating a network that's uplifting, that's going to support me, in all the endeavors that I do? So it's really just that twofold of understanding it is still a social media platform, but also, understanding and using that self-reflection of who do I want to have access to my time, to my efforts, and to my life.
Yeah, I love it because I started to do that now too. Strategically growing my network on LinkedIn. I said, I am like, oh, I got goals. I want to have 5,000.
Right.
I want to have all these people. But now, after learning lessons, like I definitely before I accept someone, I read their profile first, or if they write a note, that actually gives me a little context
Right.
of whether I should add them back or not. Because I have gotten that where I'm like, I add someone and the very next message is them trying to sell me insurance. So I'm like, come on, man, like, get off my platform, trying to sell me insurance, so I'm like, I've been more curated, like, okay, oh, this person works in higher ed. Okay, we have the like industry, we're in the same industry. This person wrote an article I resonated with. So let me add that person because of the article they already posted. So I definitely took some lessons where I'm like, I'm not just going to add everybody to everybody. I do want to grow my network to create new opportunities for myself, but also I need to grow at a, grow at a natural rate, like grow as it's supposed to go, not just add everyone and their mama just to get numbers.
Right.
And I think it's because I'm protecting my brand and also want to align myself. I love it. Align myself with people that will grow with me.
Right.
I'm going to use it. I love that. Grow with me and uplift me. So what would be some other tips? I just named, look at the profile and also add a note. Is there any other tips that you could tell a young person to protect themselves in this digital space? Because I think you do a great job of that.
As far, as looking at that protection aspect, don't be afraid to do a deep dive on their profile. Right? Look at their experience, research the companies that they've worked for. Take the time, to do that because it actually may turn out that it's a company you want to work for. And you can build and cultivate that relationship with that person. Or you may realize, well, that's a polarizing company. I don't necessarily want to be attached to that or, connected to this person because of that. Everyone has the right to their own opinion, and you should use your network in a way that reflects that. So, pay attention to the initial connection when made. Did they send you a message? Was the message appropriate? Was it structured correctly? Pay attention to experience. Pay attention to, volunteerism. What organizations, are they attached to? But in addition to that, pay attention to the content, right? And it's so simple. If you connect with that person and accept it, go through their feed. You can always remove that connection. It's not a once and done. I'm connected to he or she or they, and I'm stuck and I can't get out of that. Right? This is a learning experience, and so connect with that person. Give it a little bit of time. See how the interaction, see how the relationship is cultivated in that way. Pay attention to the content that they're posting, that they're interacting with, because on your LinkedIn homepage, for example, you can see what your connections are liking. You can see what your connections are commenting on, what they're sharing, and just really be aware of that. But don't put too much pressure on yourself to do all of this at once. Take it one step at a time, and just do what you're comfortable with, and really just sit back again. Have that reflection. Is this someone that will support me in what I'm doing? Is this someone that I can grow alongside? Is this someone that I can learn from, or that they can learn from me? And so on and so forth.
I love it. I mean, I think you kind of spoke to the Facebook purges, like that's okay,
Right.
right? Like now, but we got to take that. We could also do a LinkedIn purge, like
Right.
I think I think it has been more normalized, when they say, I unadded that person on Facebook, but we don't have that same mindset, I guess, with
Right.
LinkedIn. I guess because
Right.
I
And
guess
I think what
different.
people have to understand is we change too as individuals. Not only does our brand change, but we change. I'm not the same person I was 5 or 10 years ago, and most people can attest to that as well. Nor will I be the same person in 5 years or 10 years. And you really want to make sure that when you are being intentional and strategic with those connections, that those are people that are on that same path with you, that those are going to be solid people working on themselves, working on their career, in the next 6 months or a year, or the next coming years.
I love that. So is there a story or anything that stands out where an opportunity has come to you because of your personal brand? As I said earlier, people have approached me because they say, and they don't know me, but they say, "Oh, I read or saw things that you posted. It resonated. I think you are a positive person," and they made all these assumptions about me because of, I guess, straight social media.
Right.
So you have any instances like that for yourself?
On some positive story, George Mason, the communication department, and other colleges have hosted the Communication Fall Forum, an events plug here for students to focus on career development and really that mentorship aspect. I've attended for multiple years, but the first year that I went was the year that I was just learning LinkedIn, and I was just diving in, scratching the surface of personal branding. Because of the content that I was posting, not only LinkedIn, but kind of tying in Twitter, tying in Instagram as well, I was approached by actually a few professionals before that event began. While I'm trying to grab my coffee, I'm trying to wake up, trying to grab some fruit, be acclimated to my environment. And a couple of those individuals, professionals that were mentors actually at that event, came up to me, knew who I was because my face reflected my profile on my social media. Wasn't catfishing anybody there. This is who you see. This is what this is what I'm about. And essentially, something along the lines of, I've noticed the content that you're posting. I've noticed, that you've been promoting this event. I thank you for that. A couple of these professionals actually worked for Mason and were kind of situated near the board level, kind of making decisions on these events. And so that was something to where I had to sit back. I'm still trying to wake up, have that coffee, have that breakfast, and realizing that I was still just scratching the surface and people are noticing. So whether you're just beginning on LinkedIn, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever that platform that you're trying to learn or you're trying to cultivate your brand with, people will notice. And I think that's something to where if you're going to do that personal brand, if you're going to learn that platform, take your time to learn it and do it the correct way, because that's what I learned, and that's how people noticed. And so, when I came the next year, the even more people, were looking at me posting the content, me interacting with them. And one of the things that I'll just give advice on is when people notice and when people reach out to you in that way, connect with them virtually, follow up, build that relationship, because they know where you started, which was ground zero. And they can be able to grow with you, to support you, and to really help you on that branding journey. So I just wanted to share that quick story. And there's been other stories that are not campus related events, but I just in particular wanted to share that because that ties into that PR and social media class with MIMS. The work that you're doing, listeners that are in the undergraduate community at Mason, the work that you're doing is going to be noticed.
I love it because one of the things I thought about was it was like a business card before you even got there.
Right.
It was like you already introduced you almost did the work for you. Like you didn't have to introduce yourself. And I think that could be transferable to any, like any industry, like engaging with the social media before you go to a conference. People
Right.
like, you might walk up like that same coffee and you'd be like, oh, you're Phil. And you're like, who? Because they
Right.
already engaged with that content before you even got to the physical conference.
Right. And
Which is a great strategy.
I'm so glad you said that, because the quote that I have lived by, and this has been since high school, is work so hard until you no longer have to introduce yourself. And that's the quote that I live by. I cannot tell you off the top of my head who said that quote, but you can Google it. But that's what I've lived by. And I think it's not to be, it's not to come off, as conceited or privileged in any way, but that my network can say, I know Chloe, and Chloe is good at this. She's passionate about it, but she can help me. And that's where that aspect of helping people comes in, is knowing who you can count on, knowing who you can rely on, and who can help you if you do not have the answers yourself.
I don't think that's cocky, because also it just kind of alludes that sometimes your reputation precedes you.
Correct.
Like you walk in the room, especially in regards to digital branding and stuff, and it's like who you are already precedes you.
Right.
And for me, it kind of goes two ways. It's like, but then also you're creating a digital legacy.
Correct.
Like now your reputation precedes you, but also a lot of people what you leave behind. And I think now I was talking to someone the other day, was like that your digital footprint now is going to be lasted. It's going to be like, now it's crazy. It's going to be here way beyond your life now, that people could just do receipts on you and look at you. And so it's like, you're right. Like, you'll know there'll be a time now where we'll go into rooms and you'll really don't have to introduce yourself. You've already introduced yourself before an event or before you met someone in this digital space, with how you brand it yourself.
Right. And it's, it's the same concept. If you think about Nike, they don't need to say Nike. It's the check. Yeah. They don't need to say Adidas. It's the 3 stripes, right? It's the same concept with your digital footprint. Facial recognition and brand recognition are going to go hand in hand. And that's something that I learned very quickly and early on, and I've stuck to that. So using the same banner on my LinkedIn since day one, updating, that profile picture as needed, not every 6 months, but so that way my network, both internal and external, if you will, can know that that's me. And as you continue to develop on multiple platforms, stick, kind of with the same aesthetic, with the same profile picture. And then that way your digital footprint is solidified, and you can grow from there.
That's crazy. I don't know. I'm just nerding out a little bit, because I think I send you pictures of like, here's some numbers. And, I am tracking myself. And I was like, wish I was this more organized about 10 years ago. I think this just kind of sparked, actually, since I started at Mason, where I was like, for the listeners, I made a new Twitter account. Right. When I started at Mason, I started afresh, made a new Twitter account. And I actually said to myself, I am going to introduce myself, and I say rebrand, but this is the Philip Wilkerson that I wanted to present. And I started fresh on Twitter. And then I don't know, I didn't say I started new on LinkedIn, but it was kind of that same mindset, like almost like a rebranding. And then I was sticking with it. Right. And like you said, it was a commitment. Like, I don't know, commitment to certain things like patterns and habits. Like every Friday I do a follow back, or is it follow Friday? And I just tag random people to follow them. I do that on Friday, and it was a habit. And I don't know. I think that you kind of spoke to that habitual nature of building a brand. Like Nike is the check. They're never going to be anything else but the check. They have solidified themselves with that consistency. Right. I don't know. I think that was just a great tip. I don't know. I really didn't have a question. I just really think I was online that's something that you should take I guess all students, like if you're going to start something like a new social media account,
Right.
like this is a reintroduction of yourself, and set a pattern or set a structure or a system, like
Right.
follow certain hashtags, and it's like organized. You got to be organized.
Right. And it's, when you're doing that, keep the same outline, but your content can change. You can, cover one issue or topic on one platform or the next platform, but keeping, the overall aesthetic, if you will, verbiage, same outline. That's going to get you a lot further than someone who's trying to do multiple things on multiple platforms. There's a lot going on. If you at least just stick with the basics to begin with until you're comfortable with reaching out, that's going to get you a lot further than trying to put too much on your plate at one time.
I love it. Well, we dive deep. And so this is a great episode. I don't know, I might have to do it number 2. But we're at the part of the show, I call it shot for shot. You get to ask me any random question. I get to ask you a random question. You want to go first? I'll go first.
I can go first. What is one thing that you would have changed or done differently looking back on your undergrad career? Is there one opportunity that you missed or wish you would have taken more advantage of?
All right. So I am of the mindset that obviously all mistakes and everything happens for a reason. There was
Right.
I posted a meme that was like, go back in time and change all your mistakes ever that you feel are mistakes, or just take $10 million right now. I was like, I'll take $10 million because like my mistakes made me who I was. But with that being said, I switched my major too. I switched from business to history. Would never change that. I love that decision. I just wish I would have wrote more or explored. I wouldn't have changed history, but I wish I would have explored another minor or a major that was related to something like creative. Like for instance, history with a film minor, or history at JMU. They had like something called SMAD, which was like special media arts and design.
Right.
Like now knowing that how much I'm diving in and loving to write and love to write articles and all that stuff, I would have gone back in a time machine and said, you say you hate writing, but you really don't.
Right.
Write for fun, or video, or explore some kind of media back then. So it wouldn't have been like a change my major. It would have been like it would have been like add on a skill. I wish I would have added on a video skill or something creative, learn graphics for graphic design or something cool, because I realized I like to be creative. So that's what I would have told myself. That's what I would have changed in regards to college. Like I wouldn't have changed my major. I would have just added a more skill-based minor to be like a little bit better at something right now. That would have been cool. Yeah, but I wouldn't have changed history. Shout out to my history department. Shout out to H. Galfan. He's my favorite. We stayed in touch. He's my history professor. Similar to like you staying in touch. I took one class with him at JMU. It was like a gen ed history class, and I was still a business major. And I was like, I'm switching. He made me switch to history.
Right.
He changed my mind. Like one person that was just really inspiring, and I give him mad shout out. He's like, I didn't mean to. Like, I was like, you were just a good teacher. And he was, the funny part was about that switch. And I'm going on a little story too, was like, he was woke. Like he taught history and was like sharing real deal stuff. Like he was already ahead of the game saying they should change the names of these Confederate generals.
Wow.
He was telling us that at James Madison back in like 2005, and everyone was like, oh my God. I was like, this is my man. He's awesome. Like, I was so excited. I was like, I'm switching to history. And then luckily, I think the department, because, the department had those values. So like, he didn't get in trouble. They were kind of along the lines of teaching that kind of history. Like I had Lamont King, who was a Black history professor, talked about the real deal with slavery and stuff.
Right.
And so I was like, this is the type. It could have been a totally different experience if I had any other history department.
Correct.
The people that taught those classes changed my mind. So it's kind of like similar to you. Like we may have not chose our different majors based on, we could do research, but it was really the people that influenced that decision for me, like for real. So, all right, your question. All right. You went abroad, right? Did you go abroad? Did you go to the London trip?
I went on the Media and Society trip to Milan.
Okay, that's my question then. So with your study abroad experience, which I love it. I think every student should do study abroad. What was some of the like life-changing things that you learned going to another country like Italy?
First, for context, I was one of those students paying for my undergrad by myself. And this is another shout out as well. In my mind, there was no way, no how that I was going to be able to afford to go on a study abroad trip. I in my head, I thought that was just for privileged families, for students that had more wealth, if you will. But not only did the comm department, but the George Mason study abroad department will meet you where you are, whatever your financial background, whatever context, they will provide you opportunities for you to go. And so I took advantage of that. Once I, met with people in both departments and said, these are my circumstances. How do I get to where I need to be? Which was on that trip. Because I had some FOMO really with keeping track of social media, keeping track of Dr. Wright, who heads that program. And then really going on that trip, it was full immersion. And that is something that I'm also really passionate about, is being fully immersed in a foreign language, in a foreign, country, in a foreign culture. And I think it really just pushed me outside of my comfort zone to interact in a way that was not only, that professional side, that academic side, but personally as well. Going to the markets, going to, the cafes, going to, some of the dinners and the aperitivos, and interacting with other students that were going to the University of Milan, but also just the general population. And I think what the study abroad programs really teach you is to network and to be able to make those connections and cultivate relationships with people who aren't like you, who come from different backgrounds, have different degrees, if you will, who attend different universities. And that was just really laying the foundation for networking after graduation, right? You're going to be thrown into an environment where you may or may not know the people at the company that you're working for. And it's really just learning those interpersonal skills, those communication skills, being able to read your environment and adapt in that way. But if there is any way, anyhow, any opportunity that you have to be able to study abroad as a student, whether you're at George Mason or you're at another university, take advantage of that. And really just learn about that culture that you're being immersed in. I think one of the other takeaways is whether you speak that language or not, whether you practice, that religion or not, we're all human, right? And we all love just the simple things in life, eating that breakfast, eating that croissant or having that coffee, or eating that big plate of, spaghetti, that homemade Italian pasta. It's the little things in life that bring us together and that connect us. And I think coming back to the US after that trip, I had more value and more appreciation for building those connections and tying that into my academic degree.
I love it. Yeah, that was like the time I went to China. I was like randomly just went to China. I was a sole black man in China. It was the greatest trip ever. 2006 memories burned in my brain. I will never forget it.
Right.
And I think that if there was a way where they could fund every single student, whether it's at least just a 2-week mini semester abroad, right. I think every student should go somewhere else, like at least during their college experience. And, whether it's a full semester or the summer or just that 2-week winter break one, Just go somewhere and don't go somewhere, like you said, that's very close to you.
Right.
You know, I don't know if you're white, go to England, like go to an Eastern country or go somewhere in South America, go somewhere different, because you need to see the world. You need to, and then on the flip side, I loved how you just said the simple things that are like just universal, like riding a bike, like in China, riding a bike. I was riding a bike in China and I was like, wow, this is fun. Like riding a bike in America, just, everyone can enjoy to ride a bike, like I love that universality that you see the world is very different, but you also see the commonalities of just eating good food or riding a bike or a smile or whatever. It's just crazy all over the world. That's dope. All right. Well, we got to the part. This is a great episode. We got to the part. Now, this is the part of the show called Shout Outs and Plugs. Obviously, shout out anyone that you want to show love to. And then plugs. The plugs I'll put in the show notes so that listeners can follow up with you or just get engaged with you. So the stage is set. Shout outs and plugs.
Couple things. The communication department as a whole, Dr. Catherine Wright, Dr. Megan Tucker, Dr. Suzanne Mims, Professor Christina Wanks, plug her in there. There's quite a few. The list can go on. Professor Serge from the comm department. If you're getting into crisis communication, management, the political realm, reach out to him. He's a great resource as well. Plugging the study abroad department, plugging career services. I know Phil can do this as well, but I have learned so much, and there's so many opportunities that university, the career services department can help you with and aid you in this personal branding journey, if you will. And then lastly, really just a quick plug on mentorship and that mentorship aspect of finding someone who either has like values and morals to yours, or someone who, you want to support you in any way or uplift you, or really hold you accountable to those goals that you're setting for yourself. And so I just want to go ahead and thank you, Phil, as, my mentor and really helping me cultivate not only my brand, but my overall perspective in life, and really just you making me feel, more appreciative of the opportunities that I'm given, because you do so much outreach and support for students. And I think, no hard work goes unnoticed. And I know there are other students who may not verbally communicate with you, but they're following what you're doing. I can guarantee it. And I think that if you can find a mentor either in a digital space or physically, is going to help you propel yourself in your career.
Excellent. And shout out to your parents. I know. I was about to say, I don't get people in trouble. I was like, you better shout out your significant others or parents on this show too. Shout out to them. And now the plugs. Any plugs that you want the listeners? Obviously, you got so many things, the business, all those things. Please plug.
Well, first, I'm going to plug your podcast because it's positive, it's uplifting, it's good vibes, it's energy, it's woke, it's the whole thing. So please follow Positive Philter on all the social media handles. I'm a big supporter, so I just want to plug that. As well, you can follow me on LinkedIn at Chloe Clark PR. You can follow the hashtag Chloe Clark PR. You can follow my Instagram at Chloe Clark PR. You can follow my business Instagram, which is the Contented Canine. That's also linked to my LinkedIn and my PRs if you can't find it. And then, in addition to that, feel free to email me. My email is first and last name, so Chloe Clark VA as in Virginia @gmail.com. I'm very approachable. I know some alumni aren't, and that's okay, and that's where their barriers lie. But with students and with the general public, I'm really approachable. Ask me questions if you want to learn more about something. I'm very open to that as well. in addition to that, I just want to give you thanks and really just continue to uplift and showcase this podcast, because not only is it positive, but there's so many opportunities that can come from this, just learning, and there's so many conversations that we can continue to have. So I just thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be a guest, to be able to promote not only my brand, but to continue to help students in any way that I can.
Thank you so much. I actually was getting watery eyed, and I had to really look away.
Aww.
That was a lot. I was like, thank you so much. But also, listeners, obviously, as we come to the end of this episode, this is another example for me where I have learned immensely from the students. Chloe does workshops and presentations on personal branding, and I legit attended one of them. She did it for PRSSA. And I myself was taking notes and really applied those strategies to myself. Like, who am I? How do I talk about myself? And all those things. And so this is an example where you can learn. Age is not equivalent to wisdom. She is immensely wise for her age, and I am learning from her. And so I took notes and all those things. So please, please, please connect with her, engage with her on LinkedIn, follow her. Grow. I like that. Grow with her and uplift her while she uplifts you. I'd love that. That's gonna be like another slogan. I don't know. We might throw that on some things. Throw that on a T-shirt. Grow with me and uplift with me. But I think that's great. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. Listeners, if you love this episode, please share it with your family and friends. As Chloe said earlier, positive filter on everything. And then if you got any questions for the podcast, it's 571-336-6560. That's 571-336-6560. You can leave a voicemail, whatever. I'll get back with you. But thank you so much, and we're out.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Positive Filter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.